All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. You know, I was, did you guys see the 60 Minutes report
Yes,
on Detroit?
Yeah.
And talking about JP Morgan Chase's investment in the city and really where a lot of that money has gone, which I think is, for us here, we kind of had known that story, but for it to hit nationally and to take a look at some of the programs it's really affected, it was a good piece, Nolan.
Yeah, and it is. It does drive home that point that Detroit still is the land of opportunity. I mean, there's a lot of investment opportunity here. A lot of things that haven't been done yet that we still need. There's room for a lot more dollars, a lot more people, a lot more entrepreneurs. You know, if you're somebody out there in a city like Chicago, New York, LA, where it's saturated, you come here, you look around. There's some place to put your money wherever you look.
I think it was interesting they talked about that this would almost be a model for some other cities now that they're taking a look at, and so often maybe Detroit isn't always the model for things.
Well, part of what I think is the model is the way that JP Morgan is working with the people who are on the ground here in neighborhoods, in city government. This is not like some outside bank just coming in and saying, well, we can figure out ways to move money around. There's a really thoughtful and intentional sort of purpose behind all this that I think is important, not just for Detroit, but as you point out, for other cities as well that are struggling with this kind of thing. The one thing I would love to see a little more of is JP Morgan taking more responsibility for having caused a lot of the problems that we have here in Detroit. A lot of the blight that we have is about the mortgage crisis that they help fuel with really irresponsible lending practices. They have taken some responsibility for that. That 60 Minutes story, of course, was not about that, and I didn't expect to see that there. But it's something we should keep in mind that when banks are left to deal with things on their own, without regulation, they can cause real problems. Here they're doing good, and that's important, but let's not forget the bigger context.
That's a little, without regulation, sort of a fanciful view here. They were overwhelmed with regulation in terms of mandates and pressure from the federal government to make loans, pressure from Freddie Mac, Fannie Mae. I mean, this was not an unregulated environment they were working in. It was an overregulated environment.
The regulation that they took away was the one that told them to keep banking separate from investment. And everyone in Congress who voted against that will say to this day that opened the door to the abuses.
It's absolutely.
And that's lack of regulation.
But they were under a lot of pressure to make loans in places and to people who couldn't handle the payments.
But the CRA has been in place for decades. What fueled the mortgage crisis was in 2000 or 2001 when Congress removed that regulation of separating, these more conventional investments from
that was a contributor.
A huge contributor.
The government's Fannie Mae program was a huge contributor. A lot of things went into that. But you got a lot of banks here now doing good things in the city.
They're trying.
Bank of America
I give them credit.
has this $1 billion housing program to help people, to help reestablish home ownership in Detroit, which got wiped out in large part during the financial collapse. A lot of people a little wary of getting mortgages again, and now Bank of America got this $1 billion program to really work with people, not only to help them get a mortgage, but to help them make sure they can pay for that mortgage.
Another thing that they highlighted was really the job training programs that they're putting money into, and specifically they looked at Focus Hope and trying to fill a lot of these jobs they're talking about that are coming to the city.
Yeah, well, that's the next step, right? It's not just about housing. It's also about investing in the people here and making sure that they have opportunity. And we're starting to see some real movement on that. Focus Hope is getting back up on its feet after some years struggling. This work they're doing with JP Morgan is part of that. We're seeing all kinds of workforce development being led by the city, being led by some private investors. The Carpenters Union is moving all of its training facilities into the city of Detroit for the first time. Those are things that we desperately need for the people who live here.
What I thought was really interesting while I was watching this piece, though, because it spotlighted a lot of Mike Duggan. And I thought it was very interesting because we're coming off of a period, I think, where people are really questioning transparency in the city government right now and talking about all the investigations surrounding the Make Your Date program, and was there improper push for that nonprofit program coming from the city offices, and also then taking a look at a scathing report that came out about the housing, about the demolition, and the mayor's in front of city council this week asking for the approval. Where do you think we are, Nolan, with how people perceive the Duggan administration and transparency?
Well, there's never any question that Mike Duggan was an able administrator. He's proved that throughout his career. There was also never any question that he was a machine politician and that he did things a certain way and that he took care of the people who took care of him and made it easier for him to do his job. I think that's what you're seeing play out here. You look at his career when he was in Wayne County, had these same sort of things happen under the old McNamara
but I do think there
administration.
has to be more accountability. I mean, really what the mayor's saying is trust me, right? Trust me that these things are okay. Trust me that I will fix the things that went wrong on my own without any sort of consequence being meted out. And I don't think he's earned that trust in this case, right? I mean, I think he's earned a lot of trust in terms of the positive things he's done in the city, but that doesn't give you a license to engage the way he did with this nonprofit, which was bad judgment at the very least and a conflict of interest that he should have noted and avoided. And then when it blew up, I think he led an effort to have emails destroyed. I mean, I don't think his people just sua sponte woke up one day and did this. It's his administration that's responsible, and his answer is, well, we'll send them to some training. Well, that's not good enough. There has to be, I think, way more accounting for what went
Do you
wrong
think
and
there
how
has
it
to
will
be
be
more
fixed.
consequence in that situation? We're talking specifically about the chief of staff.
His answer to everything, Mike Duggan's answer to everything is, I hold neighborhood meetings every week. I'm in somebody's
does.
living room, and
It's
nobody
true.
ever mentions the erased emails. Nobody ever mentions Make Your Day. Nobody ever mentions the corporate land speculators.
Arguing that he's doing the
that's-
job for the citizens of
exactly. That's
Detroit.
what he says to everything. That's not enough of an answer.
It's not.
I mean, you can't. Just because you're answering some of the needs in the city, and I think he is, and you're responsive to the citizens, I think he is, doesn't mean you can get away with anything over
So what
here.
do you want to see? What should his response be at this point?
You know, I think there should be a lot more transparency and accountability, and he should start playing by the rules 100% of the time.
Right. Well, I mean, first of all, they needed to answer the IG's report about what happened much more directly. Their responses to it were almost Nixonian in the sense of the non-denial denial. Say what happened, say who did what, and be upfront about that. They're also going to now answer, I think, to an attorney general investigation into all of this. We don't know where that will go. But there could be consequences for the people involved there. But the mayor is the person who needs to take the lead in taking responsibility for it, not the people who work for him, who, whatever they did, were doing what the administration decided they needed to do. This is on him. This whole thing is on him. He instigated the whole problem with his own personal behavior. But, you know, look, people make mistakes. You just got to come out and say, I screwed this up. Here's how I'm going to fix it.
All right, and we'll have to see how that bond issue for demoing more homes is going to go as well.